today. Could you kindly just type in the chat very shortly from which location are you currently logging in? Are you in Uganda? Are you in Tanzania, in Kenya? From even other countries, could you just share which country you're from? And if you're from a university, which university? If you could just type that in the chat, that would be amazing for me to get a feeling who is in the room right now. Amazing. I see Christina from University of Dodoma, from Tanzania. Super happy to have you here. Andrew, Mountains of the Moon University, Fort Portal, Uganda. Amazing. Pamela, Grace from TechBuzz Hub. Wonderful. Regan from Kampala, Uganda. Okay, well, we keep it coming. Please feel free to keep it coming. Malawi, Nairobi, Kenya, Marvin, Macquarie University, Kevin from Kampala. Amazing. I love the diversity we have here. Juba, South Sudan. So this is a proper East African forum here. I'm super excited about that. While we have other answers still coming in, let me start sharing my screen. And we go into this. Okay. Okay, Rani, please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Great. Okay, so let's jump into it. How do we write a winning proposal? I want to start by just sharing again. So Startup is an entrepreneurship support organization. And we have written very, very, very many proposals for the past 8 years since we've been in existence. So here on the slide right now, you see an overview of all the successful proposals we have written. And there are more. Of course, some of these have also rejected us. It's not always a straight path. But just to show you that definitely we know what we're talking about. We have written and won successful proposals with Annabelle, with GIZ, UNDP, World Food Program, UNICEF, ILO, Caritas, Stanbic Bank, NORIC, among others, all in the line of entrepreneurship and innovation. And I think this is something you're all in the same field as well. And so it's really relevant to share these insights and how you can use this for your own proposals. I would love to hear from you, maybe again in the chat. Could you just share in the chat who has written a winning proposal before? Who has written a winning proposal before? Or you can raise your hand. Then Ronnie, you need to help me because I don't see anything with the sharing the screen. But who has written a winning proposal before? Is there anyone here in the room?
Okay, I think in the chats we have Andrew saying saying they have written but never won.
Okay, written
Yes.
but never won. Okay, any others? Maybe we could go to the second question I had. Who has ever written a proposal but got a rejection? And do you have any ideas why? Feel free to share in the chat or also unmute and share so that we make this a bit interactive. Who has ever gotten a rejection for a proposal? And I assume almost all of us. And do you have any idea why the proposal was rejected?
I think Christina has just shared on the chat. She's saying many were rejected, but no reason in return. Jeremiah says, have also been part of the teams which have both won and got rejected. I think Derek initially had said they have been part of a team that wrote one for a project they are running from Annabelle. And then Andrew Saith says they wrote one to MTN Changemakers. The reason they got was, in quotes, we hadn't finalized registration, especially bank details. I think Topako Regan says, I have written a winning proposal and got funded with 5K USD for a sustainability project, but it was a group proposal. So these are some of the engagements coming through from the chat section. And then Ham Lubega says he got rejected because the proposal was over budget. So these are some of the conversations coming through. Grace says she was part of a team where the proposal was rejected and the reason was didn't fit criteria entirely. Topako Regan at Selam says mine was under UNDP Youth Ideathon program. So I think maybe back to you, Laura. But this is some of the conversations coming through.
Great, thank you so much, Ronnie. I think this is a great bouquet of different rejections and different programs as well. I want to show you the top mistakes, or very common mistakes that I have seen or that we have seen, and also when we reflect on ourselves, why proposals get rejected. One, sometimes proposals tend to be too generic, too general. There are no numbers, there's no very clear how are you really gonna achieve the goal that you set out to achieve. I think that's something I've seen very many times. The second is not being aligned with funder priorities. I think someone right now mentioned already a proposal was rejected because it didn't really meet all the criteria. So I think it's very important to always understand what does a funder want to fund. If it's education for girls and you don't hit that entirely, it might be a miss. Then copy-paste proposals for donors. I think it's now tempting with AI and tools to just write quite generic proposals and copy-paste them, but usually that doesn't really work. Not having evidence or data, promising we will create so and so many jobs, we will get so many people into employment, but not really having evidence or data how this can really be achieved. And lastly, the budget. The budget doesn't match activities, or the budget is simply too high, what was planned for. And of course, budget is a particular case that can be really frustrating because money is quite relative. One donor has maybe a big envelope for the same activity. Another donor might have a small envelope. So that is always a tricky thing. But yeah, it's also, of course, a big reason why proposals, even if the proposal itself was good, but the budget didn't fit, that they would still be rejected. And lastly, not having very clear results or a clear sustainability, especially when you're asking for grants or support, let's say for your university hub or for your startup, and it's not clear, okay, after the grant, how are you going to continue your work, your operations? There's no clear sustainability plan. That is usually like a big red flag for a lot of donors. So from there, I want to look into, so what can we take away from this? What do funders look for? One, it has to be relevant. It has to really align to their goals. What do they want to achieve? And does your proposal align with their goal? Second, is it clear? Yeah, I see a lot of people like to use a lot of language and talk a lot, use a lot of English, but we want to be very to the point. We want to explain the problem, the solution, who is the target group, but being very straight to the point. It has to be feasible, so there needs to be a realistic plan, a realistic budget, credible? Like who are you? Who is implementing this proposal? Do you have the right team? Do they have the right track record? Why would they give you money and not someone else? And lastly, what's the impact? Yeah, what are you promising? What's the impact that you are promising a funder basically in return for their money? What are the results they can expect? And if this is this like a one-time off situation, or is there sustainability? So that's maybe on a high level. I just wanted us to have this in mind. Now I want to go way more concrete and really think through or talk through together, how can we write actually a successful proposal? So we have a quite comprehensive proposal writing process that I want to take us through, and then I will go deeper with you into the different parts. And I also have a case study prepared so we can think through together, how would you write a proposal if this is the call that you're seeing. All right, so let's look at our 9-step process. So we start, first thing, we have to always understand the TORs, yeah, the terms of reference. That now refers to a donor or a NGO or even private sector. They have released TORs, yeah, terms of reference, and they ask you to respond to it. In case there's no TORs, then at this point of time, you could replace this with understanding the organizational goal and objective and what they want to achieve. But right now, this process focuses more on there is a specific call for applications, a specific call for proposals. So the first step is, it sounds basic, but it's so important. Understand the TORs and understand the rating score. So usually there's a rating score for all TORs, how they're going to score your proposal. And this scoring sheet usually gives you a lot of indication on how much effort you should put into certain sections. So for example, for GIZ, they often score the team and the CVs quite high. And they have very specific criteria of who should be in the team. And if you do not have the right people in the team, you will get very low points. So even if your other proposal and even your financial proposal is done well, but you just don't get the points for the CVs, you will not make it. Yeah, so, and a lot of people don't really know that. So understand that you ask, understand if there's any rating. Then next, set up a brief proposal writing plan. What does that mean? That means really map out, okay, what are all the things you need from now to submission? You need the technical proposal. You need the financial proposal. Oftentimes, you need to hand in other documents. And in the beginning of your process, list down all the things you need to do and assign who is in charge if you're not working on it alone, yeah? Who is the lead proposal writer? Who is the person that is collecting the CVs? Who is working on the budget? And where do you have like checkpoints so that you have some time for reviews and you don't submit last minute? That's the proposal writing plan. Then after that, let's get clarity on budget and any open questions. Often we read the TORs and not everything is very clear. And most of the times we don't know the budget and they will not say it in the TORs. So here the goal is really as much as possible. Can you try to find it out? And there are different ways how you can find it out. Of course, the easiest is, do you know anyone inside the organization that can give you a clue, that can tell you, the range for this proposal is between $50,000 and $100,000. Or yeah. So ideally, you have someone inside. But of course, that's very hard, and still very many times they are not allowed to share, so it's hard to get that information. The other point, how you could approach it, is to be clear on what is your target number of beneficiaries to support. If you know the target is 50 versus the target is 200, you can have an idea that for 50 people supported, the budget might not be that big than for 500 people or 200 people supported. So that gives a bit of an indication as well. And you can always look for reference projects, like what are other projects in a similar space and what was the budget for them. Again, unfortunately, it can really change from organization to organization, but these are some hints that we really want to try as much as we can to get an idea of the budget, of the available budget from the start, and and answer any other open questions. Then from there, we create a table of content. So now we set up our technical proposal document. Here, we want to first build our structure. We want to first build our skeleton and not start writing our executive summary, our introduction, and get lost. But we first want to create a high-level content structure. And I will go deeper into that in a bit, how that could look like. After you created your high-level structure, now really think through what is your strategy? How are you going to achieve the objective of this call, the goal of this call? Yeah. What are you giving the donor that they want to give the money to you? And this is really the heart of the proposal, and you want to be very specific. At this point of time, we always recommend don't go into writing yet, but create the high-level strategy and at least create like a draft budget. So you have an idea, does your budget and strategy align, or is your budget way, way, way off? It seems very expensive and you don't think the donor has that money, then maybe you need to adjust your strategy. So ideally do that early when you don't have yet so much effort put in. Then we strongly recommend that you have an internal feedback loop so that you talk with a colleague, with your team members, and you actually present to them, okay, this is the concept, this is how I'm thinking about it, this is the rough budget. To have some feedback, it just really helps to keep quality high, which eventually contributes to success. Then after all these things are clear, now we're going into the writing, to really write out the proposal, to finalize the budget. Ideally, if you have enough time, have one more loop of proofreading, double checking the budget, check that all your Excel formulas are correct, you've not forgotten anything, and then submit. Yeah. So this is, for me, a bit the ideal flow of how to write a proposal. Of course, we know realities are sometimes different. Sometimes you get a call and you have 5 days left or 3 days left to write a proposal. Then you might need to do a lot of steps in one go or in one day. But this is really, ideally, this is how it could look like. And even if the timelines are squeezed, then you just have to do certain steps a bit faster. Now, from that high-level overview, let's move into our case study. So let's take this case study together. Let's imagine you found this call that says call for proposals, strengthening university-based entrepreneurship ecosystems in Africa. The objective of the call is to support higher learning institutions to design and implement innovative entrepreneurship programs that help students gain practical skills and start sustainable ventures. And then we have a number of specific aims. We want to strengthen entrepreneurship teaching and experiential learning at universities, support student venture creation and incubation, foster partnerships between universities and private sector, contribute to job creation and youth employability. And currently, the duration is 12 to 18 months. Okay, so let's imagine this is what we have found, and we think, oh, my university hub would be a really good fit for this call. So now we have a couple of questions. this is all we got right now, and we actually need a bit more information. So I would like to play this over to you. When you look at this, what open questions would pop in your mind? What would you like to find out at this point of time so that you have the full information? Yeah? Can we type again in the chat or unmute if you want? What information would you like to first find out before you go into thinking through this more? And Rani, you can again help me with the answers. Okay, so the case is you found this call for applications, this call for proposals. It's quite brief. And my question to you is, what information are we missing right now? What would you like to find out before we go into defining the proposal?
So from our chat section, I think Christina Muro is saying, in quotes, I'm quoting her, what is the estimated budget is a question she's having in her head right now. Then from Andrew Tugume, a question he probably has is he wants to research about successful projects about innovation in universities. I think that's something that's lingering in his brain, in his mind. Yeah. Pamela is saying, who is making this call? She's curious.
Okay, who's making this call? Great.
Yeah, so far this is the conversation we're having from the chat.
Okay.
And I'll be sharing as they keep coming through.
Perfect. Great. Yes. So, what information would we like to obtain? So when I was thinking about it, we want to know the budget range. Yes. Then ideally, we also want to know how many students should we impact? Because here, there's no indication on the target, right? And that really is difficult if you want to respond to a call. So ideally, it's always good to find out how many students are impacted. Then we want to know what additional documentation do we need to submit. And we want to understand, is there a rating system? I think there were other good points in the chat. Of course, we want to know who is the call. Let's say in this case, it is the Startup University Foundation that's now just invented for this case study who is releasing this call. And it's always great, of course, to look at what have been other calls this foundation or donor has been released and who has wrote winning proposals before. All right, so what we did is we sent an email to the Startup University Foundation and kindly requested for clarification. We asked for the budget, the target number of students impacted, and any additional information and if there's a rating system. And we were very lucky. And the Startup University Foundation actually responded and told us, yes, there is a rating system. And they showed us following rating system. So here they showed us that the technical proposal weighs 70%, the financial proposal weighs 30%. And then they also included that we have a number of sub-criteria. So the first sub-criteria is coherence with the call objectives, which gives 30 points. Realistic and concrete implementation gives 20 points. Staffing and management capacity gives 10 points. Prior experience in partnerships gives 10 points. And that total makes the 70. And then when we go to the financial proposal, the cost effectiveness, value for money gives 15 points. Budget clarity and consistency gives 10 points. And co-financing or leveraging existing resources gives 5 points. Now, when we're looking at that rating system, what does this tell us? Like, how would you interpret this? What does this mean for your proposal? What should you give more priority? What can you give less priority?
In case you have or want to say something, feel free to unmute and start sharing, because I think everyone has access to the microphone. So please feel free.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Derek, and looking at the rating system, I see the technical proposal really needs to be given much time because it's taking 70%. Of course, the financial proposal thereafter comes with 30%. So much of the effort should be put on a technical proposal. That's my opinion.
Awesome, exactly. I think that is like the first key consideration here. Here, you don't have to worry too much about your budget, because the technical proposal weighs 70%. So even if you're a bit more expensive than the competitors, but your technical proposal is much better, this would weigh way stronger. Any other reflection? Let's look at the sub-criteria for the technical proposal. What would that tell you when you look at the ratings and the points? How could we interpret like the sub-criteria?
Feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat box, or you can unmute just like Derek did, and you can share.
There is a very good training.
Yes, go on, please. That must be Derek. I don't know.
Okay, if no one wants to share right now, that's okay. So what we see here is that the staffing and the prior experience only take 20%. But the coherence with the core objective and the realistic and concrete implementation take 50 points. So again, that just gives us an indication where we want to put more efforts into and where we can maybe spend less time on. Okay, now we compare it with a second rating system, just to understand this point really well. So in this scenario, we have the technical proposal weighs 50%, the financial proposal weighs 50%. So it's a 50-50 situation. And when we look at the sub-criteria for the technical proposal, we see that the highest sub-criteria is the staffing and the CVs. So what can we conclude from this rating system? We can conclude that here our budget will have a bigger influence. So if we have to be quite mindful to stay very cost effective and to be more affordable than our competitors. And at the same time, we also know that the staffing and the CVs will have the strongest weight. So we want to make sure that we have very great people in the team and that their CVs are very well polished. They look good, they have all the right information, they're quite comprehensive and can really demonstrate the experience. Okay? So what I wanted to just show you with these two examples, that the rating system is really core. Whenever there is a rating system, look at it and then structure your proposal accordingly. All right, so we had more questions as well. And the Startup University Foundation also answered our second question. Unfortunately, on the budget, they told us that they cannot tell us the budget. However, they told us that at least 500 students should be impacted. So this is a very common thing that very many times donors won't tell you the budget because they want you to present what you think it will cost. But like one thing that is helpful is that as I mentioned earlier, so we know already now we need to impact 500 students. And now you can think through, okay, 500 students, what are maybe reference projects, plus in some reference projects that we have seen is that donors sometimes have like a per head a budget that they feel is reasonable to spend. Of course, that does not apply to every donor, not at all. This is always very contextual, but just to share, so some donors look at it from this angle. So this donor that we interfaced with, they had like a cap of $100 per beneficiary. So in this context, we would then know that we have $100 times 500 students. So the budget is around $50,000. And that per head budget usually also includes all the overheads and all the other costs. Yeah, but this is how you could get a bit like a picture, even if the budget is not clear. All right, let's move on. And we also asked for additional information. What else do we have to submit beside the proposal? And we found out we need a tax clearance certificate, a TCC. We need detailed CVs of all staffs according to the donor's template. And we need a list of past projects with project value and impact created. So we are very glad that we asked on time, because putting this together is also a bit of work. All right, cool. So now we have our information, we have understood the TORs, and we are having our proposal kickoff meeting. In our proposal kickoff meeting, we assign our lead proposal writer. And in this scenario, this is a hypothetical scenario, of course, we assign Ronnie as our lead proposal writer. Then we need to assign the lead on the budget. And ideally, the lead proposal writer plus your person in charge of finance work on the budget. Ideally, it's not like a completely different person, but they should really move hand in hand. So in our case, we assign Ronnie and Josh, who will work on the budget. Then we want to assign responsibilities to the different items so that Ronnie doesn't get completely stressed because he has this very long list of items, but others can support. So we ask Lorna to support with the CVs. For the tax clearance certificate, we also inform finance ahead of time. And then for the list of the past projects, we also request Lorna to support with that. Then we decide that we have a check-in on the technical and financial draft with other technical team members. So we set the date already for this, and we set the date for final proofreading, and we have the date of the submission. So again, why do we do this? Ideally, you really plan out a map from you receive the TORs to submission, and you really think through all the steps you have to do, because stress and anxiety usually comes from you're forgetting things, you're not prepared very well, you're not following a structured process. But if you follow a structured process, the proposal writing process can actually be quite fun and interesting, but only if you plan very well ahead. All right, so we have our proposal writing plan. So now we can go into action. I told you already before, I want to show you like a basic structure that we usually use. There are other structures as well, but our structure that we usually like to use is this one. So we always have a brief introduction. The introduction is really for formality. There you don't have to use all your energy and superpowers to write a great introduction. It's really a formality. Then we have the section about the consultant or about the company or about the grantee or the organization. So here, depending also on how much this matters, you want to put a lot of effort and really demonstrate your experience. I will go more into that in a bit. Then we have the main body of the technical proposal. And in the main body, we want to address our understanding of the objectives of the call, a detailed implementation strategy, timelines and work plan, project management approach, communication strategy, monitoring and evaluation. The last three are a bit optional, so 4, 5, and 6. You don't need them for every proposal, but it's good to ask yourself, is this maybe something our donor, our potential client might like to see? Now, for example, for GIZ, they usually always want to see project management approach, communication strategy. Other donors I've seen, they don't have that, but maybe they care more about M&E. So this is something you will see in the TORs usually, or in the rating system, and then you can adjust accordingly. And if you're not sure, of course, it's rather better to have more than less. And then lastly, the staffing, an overview of all the staff that are on the project. So please always adapt this to donor requirements and needs. I want to shortly share with you an alternative structure that I've seen that also worked before. You start with but you have an executive summary in the beginning. You have a section about the organization, the project objective, your methodology, expected results, detailed timeline on a high level. Yeah. So consider these really as the main pillars. The main pillars here and here are really pretty similar. Just the flow and how it's outlined is a bit different. And again, like it really depends on who you're addressing the proposal to. So ideally understand that and then tailor your structure, your skeleton accordingly. Okay, now I would like to go through a bit more into each of the sections and what is important. In the section about the company, about the organization, list all your past projects and clients. Highlight your successes, your impact. The more specific, the better, and tailor it to the core focus of the call. So if this is a program that supports women, then please stress out the projects with women focus very strongly. If it's an agriculture call, then really stress out your agriculture projects very strong. I want to show you just shortly how we do that for Startup. So I'm sharing a different document. So usually we have like a standard introduction, a standard section about the company, which we then just adjust based on the call. And that really helps to stay efficient. Let me, show you. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Rani, can you see the PDF?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Great. So here, this is an actual proposal that we have written. So here you see our table of contents. You see about SHA. This is our other name when we write consulting proposals. The technical approach, the staffing, and so on. But now I wanted to go particular about the company section. So you see here, this entire part, and on the second page as well, is quite standard. Yeah, so here we talk about, okay, SHA has years of experience running in-house entrepreneurship programs. We have worked on contracts for numerous clients, such as World Food Program, ILO, UNICEF, We list like a lot of these projects. Then what is other work that we have done that we felt is very relevant to this call. And then you see that here, in this case, the call was to facilitate a business sprint. So here we now listed specific experience for the business sprint. So this we would not do for other proposals, of course, because it wouldn't make sense. But because this call was for a business sprint, we now picked out our core skills and experience that we have in terms of facilitating business sprints. So here we talk about all the business sprints we've done, that we know agile methodologies, that we can facilitate hybrid events, and so on and so on. So if this would have been an agriculture call, then we would have written here specific experience in the agriculture or agribusiness sector, or in the green business sector, or in supporting women in entrepreneurship, and then again have listed these specific experiences. Why is this important? It really helps the person reading to understand that you have the right skill set and that you have the right knowledge and the right experience. So you always have to think about it like this. How easy can you make it to the person reading your proposal to quickly understand that you are the one they should be choosing? Okay, I hope that is clear. Let me move on to the next section. Now, the next section is understanding of the objective. So this, again, is an interesting section. Like some donors, like GIZ, they really give a lot of points here. They really want you to show them that you have understood what they are asking for. Others, they don't maybe give that many points, but usually it is an important thing. So what's the deal here? So for the objective, you have to show that you have understood the context. So for example, when they talk about, okay, they want to strengthen entrepreneurship teaching and experiential learning at universities, then you want to demonstrate that you have a lot of experience in this space because you've been running a university hub for the past 5 years and you understand very well that entrepreneurship education is still very theoretical at a lot of universities, and this call is very important to address this. So basically you want to demonstrate that you have knowledge in this field and how you understand the objectives and how you also resonate with them, and ideally on a high level how you would address them. Yeah, you don't want to go into details yet, but here is a good point to, for example, shortly explain that you've understood that the objectives, you have understood the objectives because you have a lot of experience in the space and you also have seen a lot of problems that hinder successful entrepreneurship education, and there's a gap between the private sector and universities, and there's a big problem around youth employability, and that's why you're suggesting to do ABC briefly. And then in the next part, when we go into the detailed implementation strategy, this is where you would now go in depth. But again, just to recap, understanding of objective, you want to demonstrate that you have really understood what they want and you will give them the right implementation. Let's go to implementation strategy. So this is usually the heart of your proposal, yeah? Like this is really about how do you now achieve the objectives. And here it's not about blah, blah language, not a lot of words, a lot of English, a lot of talking, but we need to be to the point. We need to mention numbers, targets, concrete activities, timelines. Like it's really, you really imagine it as if you got the money already and now you have to implement. And now you sit down with your team and you're thinking through how will you implement this project. To that level of detail, I would usually recommend thinking through. And we also got quite some good feedback at Startup that usually our proposals are pretty detailed and that donors really appreciate that. So this would really be an advice, make it detailed. Not too much words, but detailed. How exactly are you achieving the objectives? So I want to think that through with you together. I will flash for you again the objectives. Let's stick here. And I want you to write down ideas in the chat. What could be strategies, concrete things that we want to do to achieve the objectives? Can you suggest specific strategies how we would achieve one or all of these objectives? I will give you a moment to think, but I would really love to hear a few ideas. What could be a strategy here? What would you propose to the donor? What will you do? Do we have any ideas in the chat? What could be activities here?
I think probably people are still brainstorming. We don't have any conversations yet, but I think as soon as they're done brainstorming, I'll be able to share their submissions.
Okay, I didn't want to bias you already with my ideas, but I think we will still move on. So now for the implementation strategy, for example, this could be the strategy. So we could say, okay, so we will first design a curriculum for a 1 semester long entrepreneurship course together with our private sector experts at Hub Africa. Then we will implement the course at 2 faculties as a mandatory course for the business and engineering faculty for second-year students. Then we will find 50 private sector partners for minimum 100 internship placements. Then we will run a 6 weeks holiday incubation program. Students will get credits, like if they attend an internship, for selected 50 students who developed great ideas. And this incubation program is implemented in collaboration with StartHub. Then we will fund the best 20 students with $20,000 and give 3 months of mentorship. In the end, we want to do an evaluation and possible scale up. So that's what I mean. Here, I have not written a lot of words yet, right? But I've thought through a high-level strategy on how I want to achieve these objectives. Of course, there are millions of strategies. Exactly are you going to do it? With whom are you partnering? Who are maybe experts that you bring in to achieve the objectives? I want to show you now also again like a real life example from a proposal that we recently wrote and also got. So this is just a screenshot from the proposal, but this is like the key strategy that we were suggesting. So here we had like inception and preparation phase, then we had like an outreach campaign, we had a growth bootcamp, then we had a cohort pitch event and gave out seed capital. Then we had one-on-one coaching visits, financial and compliance support, final pitch event, more funding, follow-up coaching, and end-line assessment and final report. And where you always see the A1, A2, A3, in the technical proposal, we were then describing each of these activities in detail and what exactly would happen at which stage. But if you have like an overview like this, it looks like a coherent strategy, you know? It's like clear what is the flow of activities and how are the activities flowing into achieving the main objectives of the call. So here again, I've seen a lot of universities who wrote proposals and they were so generic and very vague. And I guess this is one of the reasons why they did not get the funding. So here you really have to be specific and really think through how will you achieve it. Okay, then what is really key, and it either has to come out of your technical proposal or you make it of your of the technical proposal section, or you make it an own dedicated headline, are the expected results. So you want to be really specific in what you're promising, yeah, because the results are basically what you're exchanging for the money that you're asking for. So in our case study, I'm suggesting that 500 learners acquire practical entrepreneurship and business management skills, enhancing their employability and self-reliance. 100 students complete internships in private sector companies, gaining hands-on work experience and professional networks. 50 students launch new ventures through incubation program, tuning ideas into viable businesses. 20 student-led enterprises access seed funding or investment to scale their operations. And in total, these interventions collectively lead to the creation of at least 100 jobs, contributing to youth employment and local economic growth. So here, you also want to have in the back of your mind, how are you creating these 100 jobs? So in this scenario, I was thinking, okay, we have 100 students, they do an internship, so maybe 50 of these will get employment after. Then from the 50 students that launch new ventures, maybe 25 continue, and then in each venture, 2 jobs are being created, so that's in total 100. There are, of course, millions of other solutions or scenarios here. The point is there has to be like a logical flow how these things are to be achieved. So whenever you put numbers, you should have a backing for the numbers, but do put numbers. It makes your proposal so much stronger. All right, then we move on to the next section in each strong proposal. That's like a timeline and work plan. I think it's pretty straightforward. Here you want to show what are all the milestones to be achieved, what are the activities under each milestone, what is the timeline, and who is the responsible party. Yeah, so here again, this also helps you to really think through how exactly are you going to achieve this and what time frame, and helps the donor to pick someone who they trust that they can also do operation very, very well and effectively. Then moving on, the last part usually is the staffing. So what has worked for us really well is to always have like a short bio, the core expertise of the person, and the role in the project. So what will they be doing? So here, of course, this will just supplement your CV. You always have to attach the CVs, but this is like a short summary of each key expert in your technical proposal for the evaluators to already read who is on the team and to feel, to get confidence that this team has the right skills to execute. Yeah, so again, just to zoom out, this is for me like the key building blocks of writing like a good structuring and writing a good proposal. And let's move into use of ChatGPT and AI. How are we using it? So generally, I think they have a lot of benefits. It's great for brainstorming, for looking for ideas, for polishing language, for creating structure. So definitely use it and yeah, use it as like a brainstorming partner. I think where we have to be careful is not to just copy and paste, not just to take any generic thing the tools are giving us. So sometimes you will realize when you give a prompt, ChatGPT or which other AI tool you're using will give you some very generic ideas or very generic suggestions. And again, the proposal should be the opposite of generic. The proposal should be quite detailed. So this is something you have to be careful with, to either then just build on that and make it more specific, or prompt more to get very specific. But yeah, don't just copy over generalized aspects. And of course, as always, don't just take facts and references for granted. There can be a lot of wrong information as well. So for sensitive facts and references, please always double check as well. Don't just copy and take everything as the truth. Okay, so I have one more core aspect I wanted to share, and then I'm happy to get any maybe questions or also any comments or sharing what has worked for you. So my bonus slide for today is how do we even find opportunities? So number one, create a customer relationship management tool for yourself, for your hub, for your company, for your startup. It can be as simple as an Excel sheet. You can use other CRMs, Airtable, whatsoever, and simply just list all the relevant prospects, all the relevant organizations. So if you think Annabelle or WFP or GIZ, these might be, or a bank, they might be great potential donors or partners. Write them down. Write them in a list, so you have them offhand, so you have them very close in your focus. Ideally, if you have any contacts already in these organizations, then list them there as well. Yeah, then check their websites regular to see if they are calls. Follow their LinkedIn pages. If they have a newsletter, sign up for the newsletter, and try to stay in the loop of any calls being released. Then some donors have databases, for example, GIZ, so you can create an account in the GIZ database and filter any tenders will be launched there always, and you can filter specifically for entrepreneurship in Kenya or Tanzania or Uganda and so on. There are some platforms that can be useful, for example, funds for NGOs, and build relationships with key individuals in donor organizations. So ideally, if you want or if you think you could get funding from Mastercard Foundation, then try to find individuals within the organization, understand the organization very well, and also explore if you can hand in proposals even when they don't have a call currently running. And I think this really helps to go to networking events or trying to reach out on LinkedIn, which is usually a bit hard, but of course can always be explored. But ideally, try to get a first personal contact and then stay in touch. Because definitely, like a lot of warm leads usually come when you have a prior relationship already with someone and they have seen that you are doing great work and they would like to trust you with their grant or with their project. All right, so I hope I didn't overload you completely with a lot of information right now. So I would like to take a few minutes and answer any questions or also to hear from you what has worked for you when writing proposals, or where do you still have confusion or unclarity.
Yes, Jeremiah, I see your hand up. Please feel free to unmute and share.
Yeah. So for me, I think my comment is on bonus, the slide, the bonus slide, how to find opportunities. So under point number 4, the side that I've been involved, like to solicit funding, is one. Maybe you might already know it. It's development aid. Development aid, sometimes also Relief website. But also one other comment is which I like most is on building build relationships with key individuals in donor organizations and understanding their objectives. Like in Malawi, when there was USAID before it was closed. So what we'll do is to understand their priorities, maybe for the next 5 years. Maybe previously they would they would be more into education, but maybe they might have changed their priorities for the next 5 years. They might want to be more into agriculture and maybe the health sector. So we would also want to understand more of their priorities going forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this was a great submission. I really love that. I think especially how you really looked into the 5 years, not even just short term, and seeing how where they want to go. And also the additional platforms you've just mentioned, I think super helpful. Maybe you could just type them in the chat in the meantime. I will add them to the slides as well, but then everyone could already check them out as well. Thank you, Jeremiah, so much. Anyone else? Oh, yeah, Ronnie.
So from the chat, I see Pamela says, this is really eye-opening. My question is, how do we partner in writing proposals? Maybe let me say the other one so that you can deal with them at the same time. Alan also says, thank you. Glad to be here. Kindly speak to proposals that are business oriented. Proposals for an offshoot under Stanbic Bank, proposals for a service to Safaricom. Yeah, so he's asking something in line with business oriented. Those are the two questions we have in the chat so far. Maybe you can react to those, Laura.
Okay, let me take the maybe first question first. So I have even a slide on that. So Startup, we are really interested in collaboration, in working on proposals together. As I mentioned, we are really strong when it comes to entrepreneurship and employability education and skills, everything venture building, incubation for tech, manufacturing, agribusiness. Yeah, so usually how that could work best is if you have if you see an opportunity for a program for your organization or for your university. Hub, I think Pamela, I of course know your Hub and the amazing work you do there. So if there is a specific opportunity, then you could always reach out to us with the call or with the scope. And then we could come in ideally already at the beginning of the proposal writing process. So if you think this is something you would like to collaborate with us, let me just come to the overview again. Then ideally you could already engage us basically in the beginning, let's say step 1, step 2, at the proposal writing plan stage. And we have an online meeting, we have a call, we discuss the proposal, we can think through together what could be like the implementation strategy, what would be our role, what would be your role, and then we can split also the work in writing the proposal, adding the experts, adding our, for example, private sector experience, and we have a very big network of highly skilled individuals as well. Yeah, and then we could submit together either as a consortium or otherwise one of us being the lead, the other one being like an additional partner or something like that. And hopefully we would get it. So this is, yeah, not only to you, Pamela, but to everyone. Like if you run or if you've seen opportunities around entrepreneurship and innovation, you would like to partner with Startup, please just send us an email. I think Ronnie will share again our emails in the chat, and we have a meeting and we see what we can do together. On the second question of the business proposal, so I think what I need to understand a bit more right now, I haven't yet fully understood. Business proposal mean you want to sell, you want to sell to Safaricom, for example, or you want funding from them, like just to be clear what you mean so I can answer it better.
Yes, that is correct.
Which one you want to sell?
Yes,
or you want fund? Yeah, you want to sell.
I would want to sell, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I think if you want to sell, then still, I think what is really important then is here you're not selling impact, but you're selling like whatever your service or whatever your product is going to do. And if you're selling to a company, I think you can always look at it from the angle of whatever you're selling has to make the company either more money, reduce costs, or reduce time, hassle. Yeah. So I think I would first ask you, okay, what do you think is like, what's the value? Like, why should Safaricom buy your service? Or I think this is what you would ask yourself. And for me, this is like, would be like the core section then of the proposal, because then you could just introduce like your company briefly, your experience, what the main service or product is, and what is the benefit for the company. Like, why would they buy this? What is like the unique value proposition that you're offering to the company? If you already want to share your prices, you could share your prices at this point of time. If you rather want to use this as like a door opener to get into a conversation, then maybe you don't want to share them yet, and you could share that you would like to discuss prices in case they're interested. And then I think there should be a clear call to action. What's happening next? So I think for me, to be honest, in the scenario of like in the business scenario, usually I know it that rather there may be some prior discussions first. You already had some discussions and then you send the proposal. And then if that's the case, then you would add your pricing and your budget at this point already. Yeah, but again, I think the key heart here is, what's the company benefiting from your product and service? Why should they buy you? Why should they buy from you? Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
I see. Oh, okay. I see someone from with the hand, Alan. Alan, do you still want to react? Or I don't know. I saw you raising a hand.
No, I think it was a mistake.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So I see 3 more questions from the chat, and one is coming in from Andrew Saith. He says, does the proposal writer have to be skilled in that particular field of interest of the grant priority? Say, if the grant is about education, does it have to be a teacher as the key writer? That is question number 1. Then question number 2, there are 3 questions, so let me just say all of them. Question number 2 is coming in from Simon Peter. They are saying, very insightful. Case in point, a firm is launching a new SME program and they are seeking partners to work with. Speak to the nature of proposals they can develop and to make them very effective. Then our last question here from Matthias Maitha. Dear Laura, I liked what you said about the link between objectives and strategies, but sometimes even well-planned strategies do not lead to expected results. How do you think we can show adaptability or learning in a proposal, so donors see we can adjust when things change? I have always had challenges answering this part. And I think Alan, I think has another question, especially about expectation management. How should proposal writing be managed well from the expectation perspective? So maybe Laura, I hope you noted some of those questions. Maybe you can react to some of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. So yes, we will share this presentation, of course, as well with everyone. So yes, don't worry about that. Okay, so maybe Andrew's question, do you have to be skilled in that field? I think ideally, so I think you should have knowledge in the field, but you don't have to have professional knowledge. So for example, I personally I'm a psychologist by profession, but the last 10 years I've been practicing entrepreneurship. I ran my own businesses. So I would definitely say I have a lot of experience in entrepreneurship and business as a practitioner, and I'm confident I can write these proposals. Even though I don't have like the professional degree from a university. So I would answer it in that way. Ideally, your person should have quite some good knowledge. Otherwise, it's again like likely that the proposal will be quite generic and not very specific if the person doesn't have much understanding of the domain of the proposal. Then I think there was a really interesting other point on the showing adaptability or learning in a proposal. So I think how I'm just trying to think through like proposals that we have written. Usually I think there is I like to bring it out already in the strategy that I'm, for example, saying that, okay, this is a tentative strategy, but things will be developed and shaped out based on maybe a needs assessment or based on co-creation with the stakeholders and so on. So that always gives you a little bit of leeway. And then I think now, if you use also, for example, under project management approach, if you describe that you have a very agile and iterative project management approach and not following a linear approach, that kind of already implies that you do a lot of adapting and learning. And then you could again stress out here that in case you're in the project and you realize things are not working out as you planned, you can quickly adapt and change so that you can still achieve the results, even if the strategies have to be adjusted. I think this is how I usually like to bring it out. If there's like a particular section where you should talk about that, then it might also be helpful if you share past examples and you could share like in this project, this and this happened, and this is how we managed and how we adapted and how we learned from it. I think this is another thing I always recommend. If you have specific scenarios you can reference to, that is also strong. So if you have something around learning and adaptability, that would be helpful. I hope I answered your question. If it not yet, then you can please also just clarify it and I will try again. Then I think on the point of expectation management, yeah, I think it depends on how you like what you mean exactly, Ellen, but if two organizations write the proposal together, and both organizations will also be implementing the project, then I think there will be a split in the budget according to the activities. And I think usually from our experience, the organization that is like the lead proposal writer usually is also the lead project manager and will take a bit of the bigger share of the budget. Besides the other organization. You raise your hand, you please feel free to clarify so I can answer better. Over to you, Ellen.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think what I mean here is it's you're looking for a job for the company that you represent, and you're not sure there are very many other 100 of those that have applied, but you have put in all the resources, time. Certainly, you have even hired some expert proposal writers here and there, or you already have a proposal writer that you pay on a monthly basis. So my question is, managing the expectation of, is this an opportunity? Is this a job that will come through? I have had the situation where we have had to take proposals from Nairobi to Kampala. And again, you're not expecting, you don't know whether this is going to actually end up as a real job. Thank you.
Okay, I think I still haven't fully understood. I'm sorry. Can you please rephrase it one more time? What your question is?
So let me use another analogy. I'm looking for a job to work in an organization, and several organizations have put out calls for, let me say, maybe proposal writers. Okay, let me use a different one. Maybe software engineers. And I am looking for an engineer, an engineering job, but every time I apply, I don't get feedback. Of course, there is and I like the fact that you already said your background is psychology. I am trying to look at how do you manage expectation of, making 10, 20 proposals, having spent huge resources to get these proposals written to the respective organizations, and certainly none of them is responding back, or maybe a few are, or even it could also be that I can only write so many. Yes.
Okay, I think I've understood you now. Maybe, I mean, to be honest, generally writing proposals is tough. I think especially this year with the USAID collapsing and so on. I think definitely it's been way more tough, and we also feel that. And I've written so many proposals that just go into the dark space and you never hear anything back. So I think usually you have to have a thick skin, to be honest. I mean, I would always advise, try to not invest resources. Of course, you invest your time. That definitely you have to invest, but maybe try to not invest other resources. And otherwise, have a thick skin. Me personally, I really don't like when I don't have any feedback. So I always try to at least reach out to organizations and ask them if they're still evaluating, just for me to know, am I still in the game or have they already decided against me? I think this is something you can always do, because definitely most organizations will never give you feedback. And then, of course, if you realize you write your proposals one after the other, and you never get any, then it might be also good to get some feedback from others. You could give some of your proposals to other people, ask them for feedback. Is the proposal clear enough? Are you demonstrating what you want to achieve? Is your budget does your budget make sense to what the activity is in line with the activities? And maybe to see if you have a blind spot and there's something you're not seeing, and maybe that's why the proposals are not really going through. That's maybe the best I can answer right now. Just generally, again, it's not easy, definitely, and there's always a portion of luck. And that's also why I would always recommend write very many, try to reach out to a lot of people, meet them personally, maybe get their personal feedback even on your concepts, on your ideas. And stay strong. It's just definitely not easy, especially in these times. Okay, I think these were all the questions that I can see right now. Thank you very much. Once again, I think Ronnie just shared our website, our emails in the chat. Please reach out if you want to collaborate on a proposal. We will also share with you the slides for your reference. And otherwise, I really thank you for your time, for your attention. It was great interacting with you today, and I hope you learned one or two things. With that, I would hand back to Ronnie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura, for that really insightful session. It was such a masterclass indeed. Maybe we can give us hand claps, you can give us some hearts, and we're looking forward to the next masterclass. Like she mentioned, we'll be sharing all the resources that we use in these masterclasses, so stay tuned. Until the next one, have a great evening. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.